Today's plan is to put a set of fork seals in these fork tubes. These are off a 1991 Fat Boy FL style. You can tell by the way they're open in the top here. And we're going to get them apart, get new seals in them, put fluids back in them, and get them ready to get back to the customer so that he's happy with them. So we're going to go through the procedure today, and hopefully that'll help you out with when you want to deal with your own fork tubes. The fork seals are leaking badly, so we need to replace the fork seals and the bushings. We've got a package here that's got all the pieces that we need, and we're going to attempt to take it apart. So as we start, the first thing that we have to do, which we've done to the other set already, is to reach in here, and there's a small C-clip in there, if you look. And that C-clip has to come out first. So we just take a small screwdriver, or whatever sort of implement you want, and we just pop them out. There we go. There's the little clip. So we'll set that aside. And we have the clip out of our fork leg here. So what we're going to do today is make sure to get it out. Sometimes they're stuck. Sometimes they come out fairly easy. So we're going to take this. They always have like a 6mm bolt in them. So we're going to take a 6mm socket, and we're going to stick it up into the bolt. Now these bolts sometimes can be hard to get out. It's just nice to tap that in. Make sure your socket is seated inside. And then we'll remove it. The fork leg will want to spin as you try to remove this bolt. So we need to hold it in place. If it's not too hard, sometimes you can just put a screwdriver through the fork hole here, and we'll see if we can get it out. There we go. We're going to remove the bolt out of the bottom. When we do, there's going to be a lot of oil come out. So be prepared for that. We're going to set it in our drip pan and let it run out while we do the same thing to the other one. There we go. Oh, this one was rusted in here. There we go. There's a small brass washer up there in place. If the washer is good, you can leave it there. If the washer is bad, then it's time to replace it on this screw. So now we're just going to take this one off, and we're going to set it down in our tray and let the oil drain out. We'll go on and do the same procedure with the other one. We don't want to clamp the things in a vise, so we've taken some very soft board here and cut some pieces to fit in here. And as we do, put a rag in there as well, just to add some protection. If you don't have the fancy Dan fork tube holder. There we go. Now as you can see, this one's not going to go up in here. There's no way. So we have a small extension that we're going to use. We've welded this one up and made our own extension tube. Make sure it's seated in there. And again, we'll try to break it loose. I'm going to hold on here and see if we can get lucky. And there we go. Screw is out. We'll take these tubes and we'll just pump them up and down and force all of the oil out. These ones seem to be fairly dry because everything has already come out of it. So we're going to get it back set up and show you how to take it apart. So now we've got it mounted back in the vise. We've taken the small clip out that we spoke about earlier out of the top so that the seals will be free. And put some rags down here. You're bound to get some dripping off when you pull it out. All you need to do is nice even movements. Tap. And this little bugger seems to be in there. and it's not seeming to want to come out. So we're going to have to examine things a little bit closer. So we've been attempting to take the fork legs apart here, and we've ran into a bit of a problem. The bottom fork legs won't come off. No matter how much we do it, how much we hammer it, it just continues and continues to be stuck in there. So rather than beat and hammer and get something on it, we're going to take our heat gun and we're going to apply some heat to it. The seals are rubber, so they'll get pliable after a period of time. So we just take our time and go around and try to evenly heat the seal up. Probably going to need it till the fork leg is hot to touch. We've got our heat gun on high, so that should do it. Also, the bushing that it runs on in there can also be stuck in there, not allowing it to pull out. So by heating the fork legs evenly, we should be able to get this out. Pretty warm to the touch, but we'll give it a shot right here and see what it does. And it's still not moving. There we go, fork leg out. So sometimes it pays to take your time. The seal is just rubber here, but this could have been stuck a little bit, but I think it was mainly the seal that was stuck inside. So that's the way to get the fork legs out if they're stuck in there. You could do it with a hair dryer, put something around it, put the hair dryer to it if you don't have a heat gun. A heat gun is ideal, and as you can see, it wouldn't come out, but now we have it out completely. So we'll go ahead with the rebuild. So now we're getting ready to take the bushings out of the forks. There's split bushings on here, and if you just spread them a little bit like that, they'll slide right off. Lower one, upper one, and the other one. Take the spacer that goes below the seal and the old seal. Another thing to remember, you see this has no end on it. Sometimes they're still stuck inside the fork tube, and you'll have to tap the fork tube upside down to get them to actually come out. But these are important. These are your little spacers in the bottom, and you have to have these on there. Now we're going to put a little bit of fork oil on here just to lube things up a little bit. And we'll start with our large spacer. Slide that up on here. And then our small spacer. There we are. Okay, that's all we're going to put on there right now. Then we're going to wash out our fork leg, and we'll stick it in, put the screw in, and get ready to put the seal and stuff in. So now we're going to get ready to assemble. We're going to take a little bit of lube. We've already lubed it up good, but it doesn't hurt to put a little more on it. We're going to take our new screw set we have here and our little brass washers. And we'll put the brass washer on there. And I like to just put a little bit of thread sealant on there. Doesn't hurt at all. While we're on the subject of the fork screws for the bottom, I like to use this stuff. It's just a thread sealant of some kind. This happens to be a Permatex brand. I'm not pushing Permatex, but they have good products. And I use this in place of Teflon tape in a lot of cases, on most cases now. The Teflon tape is a good unit. It gets on there, it seals some things up, but it can tear if you get it wrapped the wrong direction, or it just doesn't seal like it should. This thread sealant covers the whole threads all up, so when it goes in there, it's making a bond across all of your threads, and nothing's getting torn up. It's just seating in there. So it's a good product. It's a good thing to have, some thread sealant. you're wondering how to get your fork tube cleaned out, to get some of the sludge out, you put a rag in on a piece of threaded rod. And then we can turn that inside and reach all the way to the bottom. And make sure that we have all the crud outside. And we're going to blow it out, spray it, blow it out, and get it ready to assemble. We've taken and also cleaned all this area out with a light sandpaper, just to make sure that it's going to seat right there, because the other one was stuck so bad. And as I said before, making sure that this piece is on in here. Slide that in there, and we can just look through the hole and make sure that our threaded piece is lined up in there. And make sure that's it nice and tight. Take our tube out of here. And we'll take these pieces out, put our set of soft jaws in. So now we're getting ready to put our bushings and our seals in here. Down inside, we've taken the large one, and we have to get that down in. Now you can take your fork seal driver and get it started and make sure that you're in the center, but it won't go all the way down. We want to make sure that it's seated in. So you can take the old ring, drop that down in there, and just continue to tap that back down until it's in place. Now that we have that down in place, the next step is going to be to put our seal in. Everybody wonders which way these go. You'll be able to see that there's a spring quite visible in the bottom and the big lip on the bottom, and that's what goes down. The seal has a numbered side and an open side, and what we want is the number side up. So we're just going to put a little bit of assembly lube on it so that it goes in nice and easy, and a little bit around the outside. So we don't want to tear the seal up when we put it in. And then we just gently put it on here and slide it down over the fork. Sometimes it's handy to take your old washer and just put it on top so that you can tap on it and it'll go in there nice and square. There we go. So that's down in there. We're just going to take that washer out. We already have our one in the bottom. And we check inside to make sure we can see the ring inside here where our small piece goes. This is the piece, the little locking clip, just holds it in place. So you just carefully finger that into position, push that down all the way around, and check it out, and there you go. All we're going to do now is put our oil in, and this fork tube is ready to go. One last thing while we're at it. If you're working on your motorcycle and you're not sure of things, you can always access information on the web. But I strongly suggest that everybody gets their manual for their bike. You know, the manual is going to tell you everything. It's going to answer your questions that you may have, that you're wondering about. Even in this simple job that we had to do, you know, it will give you the instructions on what kind of how much fluid to put in your forks, things like that. It'll also tell you, help you identify your forks, you know, as to which kind of forks you have, whether you have an FLSTC or F or a FXST. So it'll help you say, oh, that's what mine looks like. That's what I need to do my sort of stuff. A manual is irreplaceable. So I strongly suggest you invest a lot in your bike, invest in a manual. So what we're going to do now is put some fork oil in our bike in these tubes, and we're going to use some Lucas oil. We're going to take this off the top of the cap. You can see a big washer there. It's a rubber washer that helps just anything that might seep by the threads, and that's what it's made for. It does a good job of it. But we're going to replace that and put a new one on it, just as part of doing all that we can to make everything fit properly and work for the customer. So we'll put a new rubber on. Carefully slide it over the threads, square it up. So we've just got our fork tubes here clamped lightly so that they're standing up, and what we're going to do is put the right amount in them. The Harley manual states that they should have 11 and a half dry, wet and 12 and a half when they're dry. We didn't pull the inner springs out, so there's a little bit on that. So we'll pick the happy medium and put 12 inches in. Take one of these little funnels and just watch. Don't just stick it in the fork tube like that, because it'll lock up in here and you won't be able to pour any down because it needs an airspace. So you just pull it out a little bit and start adding your oil, because it needs some air to breathe. Yeah. We're just going to let it sit there for a moment and let it all run down from the funnel, and that takes care of that. Before I put the cap on, I like to set it down on the floor or up on the bench here and just see if you can push the unit a little bit. That'll work some air bubbles if there's any in there and get them out. We're making sure we replace the little ring that was on it because he's going to want that on the top of his triple trees. And we've put a new rubber on here. Front forks are done. It's not a hard job. Getting your screw out of the bottom, take your time. Make sure that your tool is seated heavily into your screw at the bottom. Give a little tap with the hammer, helps loosen it up a little bit and making sure that you're all the way in. We were fortunate that I could just put a screwdriver in and pull it. In other cases they'll be a lot harder, so you'll have to use other techniques to hold the fork leg. And the hardest thing was getting the seals out, which is not uncommon for something that sat for a long period of time. So if you can get a heat gun, if you have one, or a hair dryer worked just fine. Heat that up outside, all around, and keep working on it, and it will come out for you. These are just some examples of different kinds of fork tubes that could be out there. These ones here are on the Dynas. These are like a 39mm tube, so they're different tubes, so you have an idea of what's on top. This is a soft tail one with just a set of aftermarket covers on top, but they would always have maybe a rubber cover. This is a custom set here, and they have caps on the top. So whatever you're dealing with will have some kind of cap. These are Fat Boy FLH type fork tubes. You can tell because there's no cap covering them. The sliders will come down and go right over top of them, so you can look right in and see the seals inside of them. These are the older 35mm style tubes on the older shovels. This is a custom turn down set we did for Frank's bike years ago. Just adds a little bit of class to them. These type are all your standard sort of soft tail tubes right up to, I think 06. So they will all fit these different configurations. So I hope this helped you out. Have a great day.